little bit of real history and fictionalized. Okay, so the real history is that yes, Picasso did die in April 1973. And he was the most famous artist of the century, obviously one of the most famous in the world. He's also was and is the most forged artist. And I guess if you span five movements, you have a lot that an artist can forge because artists, I mean, forgers have their favorites, they have their comfort zones. And so obviously, spanning what he did, it's like an open invitation. Pick surrealism, pick expressionism, whatever you want. But anyway, so all of that is true. Most of the paintings, actually, all of the paintings I refer to in the book are true. Picasso's iconic The Old Guitarist. The only painting that isn't true is the forged one. And I gave it a name, I gave it a year, I set it within his oeuvre, but it truly is a forged work of art. And it's called Woman Laughing. That's the name of the painting. And it was really fun to set it also at that time. For as you not only say, there was this dynamic art thing going on, experience in that in 1960 had been the first blockbuster. That's where the word came from. A Picasso exhibition at the Tate Gallery in 1960 was the first worldwide blockbuster exhibition. And so that also made me want to choose Picasso. But Nazi-looted art coming on the market, again, the ideas of forgery, the scandal involved in forgery, the insurance investigators that were now coming on the scene to fight and discover forgeries. I mean, it was just this mix. But also one other thing, sort of interesting time period, is I read an article that said 1973 was the most pivotal year in British history. And I thought to myself, that's crazy because they'd been through the Blitz, they'd been through World War II. How can that be it? But in 73, they were in an energy crisis. They were in sort of energy skirmishes. They had their first bombing from the Troubles on US soil, the Old Bailey bombing in March of that year. They had labor and other strikes, union strikes, the entire year. It was the first imposed four-day work week and high inflation, high recession, global recession going on at the time. It was a very dynamic, very changing year for the structure of British society, which was an interesting time to insert this story. So there's a lot at play that made it a fascinating period to write about. Diana and Lily are absolutely the main characters. Lily is our heroine. That is who we follow. This is Lily Summers' story. However, her boss, Diana Gilden, also has her own chapters. She's got about a quarter of the book to reveal who she is. And part of the play on the title is for these women. They are both English masterpieces. But whose masterpieces are they? Who has defined them? And what are they going to do when they figure out that perhaps they are not defining themselves? So it's really interesting. Diana is the curator of, we would call her curator. They call them keepers in the UK. The keeper of the modern collections at the Tate Gallery. Lily Summers is her assistant. And so finding a forgery within her worldwide, acclaimed Picasso exhibition is a scandal, a career destroying happening. And so both women have a lot at stake here. And at the beginning, you think both women are on the same team and they're very much alike. And then you see all these shadows underneath them both and what's created them both, what their backstories are, and how divergent their stories really may be in the end. It is hardest for me to visualize a character. It is easiest for me to hear a character. That's what I go with first. I need their voice. And then what creates their voice. It's really interesting. So for instance, I will hear Diana's voice and I will hear what creates her. And that is how I know what she looks like. I get to her looks from core who she is. So there's a little bit of ice about her. So she has very pale blonde hair pulled back in a low chignon all the time, that kind of thing. So I start with voice. Diana's highly polished. Lily is younger. She has a little bit more of a working class background, which she's going to try to hide from you. Her hair is going to be curly in a time when people were ironing their hair straight, and that she's going to fight that every morning until she chooses not to fight that. And she's going to wear dresses that her mom makes but her mom's a good seamstress, so she's never going to let you know that that isn't an original dress. She's a little scrappy, and her voice in moments of stress is going to reveal that. When I envision that, I am having her walk in that gallery. She believes she's arrived. She has forgotten that she is the worker, and she's beginning to believe she's arrived and she's a guest. She swipes a glass of champagne off the tray. She wanders around. She looks at all the painting as if, she's viewing them for the first time, and she's studying them, and she's so caught up in that sort of hubris of belonging that she just looks at it and she goes, "That's a forgery. Like, don't you all see this too? Like, I'm now one of you and we all must see this." And then she realizes, curtain drop, you don't belong here. You should never say that out loud. The press is there, the director's there, the owner of the painting is there. What have you done? I knew the showdown between the forger and Lily. I knew where it was headed, but a lot of things then surprised me along the way, which I love how they surprised me. But I know, so I don't get too caught in the weeds. I do know that and that see through, that end point.